And there's some kind of delay, so you don't want to watch it because it's kind of weird. Oh, actually, I think, oh, sorry. I think we're live. So here we go. Okay, so for those who are listening in, this is our first time going live. We may have a few bumps along the way, but we promise we're going to provide good information. Right, Mr. Jordan?
Yes, of course, of course. Look, bear with us, y'all.
Exactly, y'all. I love that. Where are you from, Mr. Jordan?
I am from Suffolk, Virginia, Hampton Road, 757. Yes, I'm a little country.
Me too. I'm from North Carolina. So there you go. I can put that in there sometimes.
What part of North Carolina?
So I was born in Greensboro. My parents were A&T students when I was born. Sorry, Mom, I said it out loud. But when I was 10, we moved to Randolph County in Greensboro, which is very rural, totally almost the opposite of Greensboro. So I grew up there.
Okay.
In North Carolina for sure, though.
Okay, great.
So hi, everybody, because this will be recorded as part of our podcast. I'm Dr. Felicia Mebane, the executive producer of the Next Up Student Success podcast with a tagline of tips, tools, and takes on academics here at Norfolk State University. And I am joined by Mr. Shaquille Jordan. Yes, you heard it right. Shaquille Jordan. Mr. Jordan, why don't you say what you do here at Norfolk State?
Yes, my name is Shaquille Jordan. Yes, that is my real name, government name, my birth certificate, and social security card.
There you
go. I am the communications and marketing specialist here at Norfolk State within the Office of Academic Engagement. So that means I work with Student Pathways, the NSU Writing Center, the Success Center, Learning Communities, and of course, the Next Up podcast.
Nice, exactly. So before we go further, I'm going to talk a little bit about the podcast, how long we've been going, sort of what it's about, and a little bit about myself as well, a little more introduction for folks who are new to the podcast. So I am an executive director here at Norfolk State, and right now I'm the director of the Center for Public Health Initiatives at Norfolk State, which is really new. But when the podcast started back in March 2020, I was the executive director of the Student Success Center. So all of that, as you mentioned, is part of the Office of Academic Engagement, which is led by Dr. Andrea Neal, and they're all about student success. Primarily focused on undergraduate programs, but all about providing advising, mentoring, tutoring, the Writing Center, Pathways, as you mentioned, freshman seminar, all those activities that are part of academic affairs, but not directly the academic programs. They provide support for students. So we came up with the idea of doing something creative, which is the podcast. And I have been working with student hosts and producers, starting with Tristan White, and now with Malik Watkins, who's a senior at Norfolk State University. And the idea is to provide tips and tools and people's takes or perspectives on what does it take to succeed as an undergraduate student. And not just any people's perspective. We particularly have been talking to faculty members and staff members and other students to share on topics like communications or studying, study tools, or fifth week grades, or careers, or a variety of resources, a variety of topics. And we're in our third season now, so we have dozens of episodes out there. And I think I'm going to stop. So why don't you tell us a little bit more about yourself, your training, your professional career?
Oh man, I got a whole book. Well, I am a graduate of Virginia State University, class of 2017. I received my bachelor's in mass communications. I'm a graduate of Regent University, class of 2021. I received my master's in film and television producing.
Okay.
So ultimately, I do have a communications degree, and I work in communications, but I would like to one day, of course, produce and direct movies. So that is kind of like my end goal, working communication while
Nice.
I'm young, get my experience, because I do want to have my own production company also. So just working in the field of communications, I can kind of learn how to kind of navigate and do everything myself. So when it's time for me to run a company, I would know how to do everything. So then I could teach the next person how to do what I know how to do. So,
Nice. Also,
yep,
I
and this is my
love
job here,
movies. Yes.
just working with the different units and pushing out messages, working with university marketing communications. We're working hand in hand. So basically, I'm just the marketing guy.
Not market, well, let's say marketing or publicity. I always think marketing is business, whereas
Mhm.
publicity, I think more, but it's the same thing. You're getting the word
Yeah,
out
yeah,
about
getting the
what's
word out,
happening, right?
talking for people.
Right, right. But I love movies. And one of the things I've been the most disappointed about with the pandemic is the fact that I can't go sit in a movie theater. But one thing I'm doing is I'm watching the whole Marvel timeline from the beginning. So Marvel
Yes. Mhm.
so it's on Disney Plus, and they put them in order of the events rather than the order of the release dates of the movies.
Mhm.
It's awesome. I
Yes,
love
and
it.
that's really clever. Like whoever kind of like came up with just how to distribute that storyline, clever, because that's how you grow new fans. That's how you keep your fans. And basically that's how you can be creative with that storyline, because I know sometimes, with Marvel movies, they have like the end credits, and then they show the
Yes, yes.
preview of the next sequel or the next storyline they're going to go into. And sometimes I do find myself forgetting, like, oh wait, the movie's not done yet. So I like how they kind of like keep pulling you in and pulling you in for more. So I'm definitely enjoying
Yes.
it. Hopefully I can do something like that one day.
Exactly. Well, if you think about it, this is like that, right? So we've been doing more traditional podcasts. You can follow us, Next Step Student Success on Apple, for example, right? Podcast. But this is live. So we're going to try to pull people in and get more people. And normally you don't get to see our faces either, right? Because we're
Right.
usually all audio. So we're going to try some different things, maybe creatively. And we did that as well. There are a couple of episodes from season 2, or maybe in the fall. Actually, Malika and I did this in the fall of the last, say, 10, 15 episodes. We had a section after the credits where we just talked to the guest about anything, so
Okay.
Miss Hurd told us how she wanted to be a chef or something like that, and so it wasn't part of the tips, tools, and takes, but it was
Right.
part of the
Just a little
episode.
extra.
So just look, pull people in, just a little extra. So, and also I would say too, again, communications is something I'm passionate about as well, both to help students, but also around public health. So one of the things I'm really excited about doing in my new role is building Norfolk State has a really great communications department. We have WNSB, a radio station. We have, a recording studio, and I'm really looking forward to leveraging some of those tools to help communicate with Hampton Roads communities about health and public health, the pandemic, but also the, mental health, those issues that we have ongoing, sort of reducing health disparity, all that good technical stuff. I'm really interested in doing that, related to public health as well. So
Definitely.
communications,
All
awesome.
right.
So
Sounds
that
busy.
happens. Oh, sorry, go ahead.
I said you sound busy.
Yeah. Tis the life. Exactly, of a professional. But it's all good because I'm really excited about it. So, but anyway, so our topic for today actually happens to be communications, which is fitting, given that that's part of both of our passions. But we were going to talk about the importance of communications for students. So why is it important for students to really pay attention to how they're communicating?
Well, let's start off with just some real life scenarios, and let's put it in the in the academic field. Okay, so say that I'm a student back in 2015. I'm
Okay, sure.
taking
Yeah, we'll go with that.
yeah, I'm taking this chemistry class. I'm taking this chemistry class, and I have a C, and I'm really struggling in chemistry. You know, so I had either two choices. Either I could just try my best and see what happens, or I can effectively communicate with my professor hey, what's some things you think I could do better? Hey, do you have any tips for me that, I can maybe kind of grow on this subject matter? Or, hey, how can I meet you halfway? Because I really want to excel in this class, and just by opening your mouth, but first of all, planning what you're going to say. Because I know that was one of my biggest things that I would never do, especially just how to effectively communicate. I would never plan what I'm going to say. Just the first thing that will pop in my head, I'll say it, and then I'll realize, I should have never said that. Or I just talked myself into a hole. And I get a great example of that. In my spare time, I'm a photographer. And a lady, I forgot where I was. Oh, I was in Walmart. And I had my camera bag on. And I just came in there to get like a pack of batteries or something. And she came up to me, she was like, hey, you a photographer? I was like, yes, I am. She was like, oh, okay, well, I'm getting married soon, and I'm actually looking for a, photographer in the area, and I want someone young and support their Black-owned business. And I'm like, oh, okay, cool. And she's like, do you have any business cards on you? So me being kind of young and naive and first starting out my business, I'm like, no, but I have Instagram. She's like, oh, I don't have Instagram. But do you have a website? I'm like, oh no, but I'm working on a website. But you can still log onto Instagram, to see my pictures. And she's like, oh, okay. Well, how about I just take your name? So I gave her my name and then just walked away. I realized like that was not professional at all. Like I really should have been like, hey, I'm in the midst of developing my website. And I was, and I can, email you once the website is released, or I can send you a couple of my photos, or I can send you an online portfolio,
Right.
And meanwhile, just thinking, oh, well, I got Instagram, let me throw that at her, so, and I just lost out on business. I just lost out on money. So I feel like sometimes we need to know how to stop, think, and effectively like evaluate the whole conversation before we speak,
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I totally agree. And a couple of responses so I'm on the other side, right? I've been a professor before, I'm a staff member. And I think one tip for students with effective communications in this scenario that you talked about, the first one with I have a C with the class is, we're not your friends. We're here to support you, but you have to approach it not as you would, your friend in the dorm and all that. We have to approach it in a professional way because that's our expectation for one thing. And also because again, we're at different stages in our careers. And so you have to think about that. So that's why it is good to step back from, and you can plan it in the moment. You don't have to come in. Just take a moment to think about it before you actually approach. But it would be even better, to be honest, an effective communication in that scenario would be to give the professor some warning so that they can also prepare, right? So it might be great to say, hi, Dr. Jordan, I would like to speak to you about this, but I'm going to send you an email so I can let you know sort of what the situation is. And then I would love to come to your office hours at another time. And so then that gives you some space to really lay it out, but it lets them know that something's coming, that you're concerned and that you want to engage. But you do have to be prepared to talk about it in the moment, just in case they want to know.
Oh, definitely.
But that could be a way to do it so that you can step back for a second and really get your thoughts together, and come and present in a professional way, because that's what professors expect.
Yeah, definitely. So. I'm glad that you brought that up because even just, being in my professional role now, like I really see why my professors were so big on just email etiquette. Like, realize what you're typing, whatever signature that you have that, you may use as your friend, get rid of that, use your real name.
Right.
Because the way that you communicate digitally, like there's no tone behind that.
Right.
So, something can come off wrong. So, and just learning that now, like I'll send an email, I'm like, okay, let me you have to reread and reread again. I do that. I missed a comma right there. Exactly. Okay, now it sounds good. So just kind of taking time to kind of check yourself a little bit, like, okay, this is what I said. So now let me make sure that, the way I want to say it is delivered the way I want it digitally.
Right. That's right. And it's interesting because, again, I hope people aren't put off by me saying we're not your friends. That, like, it doesn't mean that we're not friendly, that we don't want to support. It's just like your parent. Like, I never thought of my parents as my friend. They were my parents. That's different. And professors are, we're sort of in a different kind of role. But the other thing is, think about it. We at Norfolk State have faculty members who come from all over the country, some from different parts of the world. You have students who you have to work with and communicate with. Part of having a certain type of professional communication levels it out, right? It enables people to communicate without particular specific references that other people might not get. So that's why there's an etiquette to writing an email. There's a beginning, there's a middle and an end, there's the way you address the person, there's the way you close it out, because it helps you to communicate with people who are at different stages of their careers. It helps you to communicate clearly. It feels artificial, yes. You get used to it, yes, but it also has a purpose. It's not to do it just to make it difficult and to, to make it seem professional or to make it seem more sort of formal. There's a reason why there's standard ways of communicating with people. It helps you to communicate more easily. It helps, the structure of a memo, the structure of an email helps you to communicate, to help the person who is receiving it, to communicate it helps the person receiving it to receive it in the way that you intended. Right. So that's part of the reason. That's a tip. So another tip about that too is you can Google email template, memo template. There's usually a template for everything. Absolutely. And you don't have to start from scratch. You can go out there and see, what are recommendations for how to set up a professional email to communicate, with your professor or with your employer or, whoever it is who's not your colleague. I think communicating with colleagues is easier, sometimes, but when you have to do very specific things, sometimes you need to start with a template or start with something that's already there.
Yeah. And I will also say I know personally, I was once upon a time really shy. So I would have a hard time kind of getting my message across to other people because I was a little timid, but in email, I can, but when I'm in person and I'm talking to somebody, it's like, I got to make sure I say this right. And I got to make sure I say that right. And okay, I got to watch my tone with this, even when talking with professors. And when I needed like a little extra boost or something, or, how can I, improve as a student, I would think of something and hold back from it. And then when the conversation is over, I'm like, okay, I should have said that. So now I'm feeling even worse than how I was before. And then just navigating through, my college years. And by the time my senior year, I'm like, you know what? Closed mouths don't get fed. Closed mouths do not get fed. If I'm looking for an internship, I need to have open communication with a professor that might can give me a hand. I need to go to their office hours. I need to just, hey, how you doing? So they can get familiar with my face. It's not all about communicating in general. Like, you got to be effective with it. You got to be consistent.
Right.
If I know there's this professor that has an open internship and I need one to graduate, I'm gonna suck up my pride, because like I said, I was very shy. I'm gonna suck up my pride and I'm like, hey, I'm Shaquille with Jordan. I'm a senior. This is my background, and I'm looking for an internship. That could have been like my breadwinner right there. Like Shaquille, I like how you approached me. Like, you were confident. Like, you went after what you want, and you know what? It's yours.
So why did you say suck up your pride? Like, what is that? What was that referencing?
And yes, and I'm talking from like a personal standpoint. Like I said, like I was very shy, and I was looking at asking for favors, or let me take that back.
No. I think I get what you're saying.
Yeah, kind of communicating so I could kind of, get what I want, if that makes sense. Like, hey, I'm going after this, but I don't want to seem like I'm begging, or I don't want to seem like that. I really need this. Like, I do need this. So, okay, get rid of all that and just talk like, hey, I am looking for this internship, or I heard about this job opportunity, and I have a resume that may fit, the job description. And I was just wondering, if you have the time, I would like for you to take a look at it, and I would really appreciate it. Because something so small like that could
Yes.
such a big step.
But I'm so glad you said it that way, though. I really am, because I think the pride, like feeling as though there's pride involved, might also be about not wanting to be rejected. So what if they say no, then I'm going to feel bad, especially if I approach them face to face. And so that is something I think that sometimes people do have to work through. In that it's you're looking for an opportunity. And one thing that might help folks is to think about this. When you are working for someone or working with someone, you're helping them solve a problem. So it's an opportunity for you to contribute in some way, even if you're getting paid for it. I mean, so hiring people is not just about the employer saying that, what you can do. It's also about you thinking about how you can contribute. So if you shift your thinking about that, then perhaps it's not as intimidating. And also perhaps, you're reframing it so you can be more comfortable with the approach. So even if they say no, it's not necessarily about you, first of all, right? And sometimes you may not be a good fit. You may not be what they're looking for right now. It's like dating, so you might get your feelings hurt just a little bit up front, but sometimes it just wasn't meant to be. It just wasn't a good match. It wasn't the right time. It's just, and then you move on to the next, right? And so it's similar with employees. So I'm glad you said that, because sometimes people do have sort of feelings, connected to the approach or the communication or the looking for a position or looking for help at all, right? And we encourage students to step back from that, especially in this setting, because at a university, the faculty and staff are here to help you, to support you, and we want you to approach us. And so this would be a good place to say, okay, let me put myself out there. It's highly likely that you're going to have a positive experience. So let me give it a try. Let me get to the habit of asking, let me sort of sit in the discomfort of it all and get used to it, because we all have to do it throughout our lives. We all have to ask people for help. We all have to make ourselves vulnerable, put ourselves out there to be rejected. Like, that's not going to stop. And so this is a good environment to do that, to try, to get comfortable with it, and then to work on finding those tips and tools and resources that can help you do it effectively and do it better. Right? I know that was a lot, but wrapping back around. The other one thing I wanted to say too is, so I'm an introvert, and I like on the Myers-Briggs test, I took it in high school, and then I took it 20 years later. I can say that because I'm old enough. And it was the same thing, introvert all the way. Because being an introvert is about how you recharge, so I need my space sometimes, for real.
No,
but if you're not as comfortable with approaching someone because of your verbal communications, your better writing, you just have to get savvy about, again, positioning it to your advantage. So again, you can approach an employer, you can approach a professor, you can approach a faculty member, and sometimes the face-to-face is not avoidable. You have to do it. But you might say, hey, I would love to follow up in writing, because I have my best ideas when I can take a minute and I want to share them with you, right? And then you write it out, because that's the way. And then the opposite way, if you get an email from someone and they expect you to respond, you can say, hey, I'd love to talk to you for about 5 minutes. So if you're the person who likes to do it by speaking about it, or you wanted to meet someone face to face because you're more gregarious, or that's just what you're more comfortable with, so you can be strategic about it to position yourself where you're most comfortable. And then that can help you to be successful in your communications as well.
Definitely. And just like, honestly, I would say, like, I'm 27 years old, and I really didn't get comfortable with kind of, effectively communicating until like probably like my around 24, 25-ish.
Mhm.
That's just because I learned, like I said, closed mouths don't get fed. And if you got something to say it. Like, don't hold back. Of course, think about it, but don't hold back. Say what you got to say, and then just follow up, in a effective manner. And that's where sometimes I, as a student, failed at. Like I would say all these things. Hey, I'm this, and I do this, and I do that.
Mm.
And when it was time to network, I'm like, well, they already know I do this, so. And then I'm looking like, okay, why aren't any opportunities coming my way, or what am I doing wrong? And the biggest thing that hit me was like, wait, I'm a whole communications major. I'm sorry, and I don't know how to communicate. Like, I gotta fix this. I gotta open my mouth. I gotta learn how to strategically communicate. I gotta know how to effectively communicate. I gotta open my mouth, and I gotta push myself. Like I said, I'm just talking from my self experience as a student, and now I'm here, and it's crazy because I'm a communicator for my unit now.
Mhm.
So
There you
I
go.
was able to
Success story for sure.
success story.
Exactly. So speaking of which, we're going to wrap it up. We encourage all of you to, again, follow the podcast. We have lots of episodes with great tips and tools and takes, just like the ones that we shared, with topics that are, connected to succeeding in school at university, at Norfolk State University specifically. So again, join us, look us up. Next Up Student Success Podcast. And follow us, engage, share your ideas. We'd love to, have you connect with us.
All right, sounds good. Thank you for watching. I hope to see you guys.